Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanessa and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my labor and delivery story with baby number 2. Now, this story is very dear and close to my heart because it was just so much different than my first labor and delivery video, and if you haven't seen that video, I'll probably post a card up here and down in the description box, and you can go ahead and watch that video as well, just so you can kind of see where we're going off of. But yeah, so I am currently almost 2 weeks postpartum. I'll be 2 weeks postpartum in about 3 days, and I have to say that this second baby, my baby girl, has definitely taught me a lot of things about myself, and a lot of things that it taught me how strong I really am. And so by the title of this video, you know that this was a natural, unmedicated labor and delivery VBAC. So if you don't know what a VBAC is a vaginal birth after C-section. So with my first child, my son, 4 years ago, I had a C-section, had to be induced because of preeclampsia and all of that jazz, which you will see in the other video. But with this baby, things were completely different. So let's just get right into the video and I'll let you know how it all went down. All right, so first off, I kind of want to just go back in time, kind of just let you know about my background a little bit before I actually get into the video. So this time, second time around, I was a fitness instructor and a dance teacher while I was actually pregnant. So I worked out up until 8 months, and that's when I stopped working out, and I actually took maternity leave and was home. Now, I have to say that being active really did help me physically and I think mentally in this labor and delivery. They do say that the more active you are throughout your pregnancy, the more endurance you have and the easier your labor will be. Now, I don't know if that is true, but I have to say I believe that it did help me in a lot of ways. So just getting into the video, I was 40 weeks and 2 days when my daughter was born. She came naturally, so meaning my contractions started, and I actually was having a lot of Braxton Hicks. So throughout my pregnancy, starting at about 7.5, 8 months pregnant, I started getting a lot of Braxton Hicks. I don't know if it was just because of, I don't think dehydration, because I was always drinking water. I mean, a fitness instructor, I know how important water is, but I had a lot of Braxton Hicks. Maybe it was because of how active I was, who really knows. But we can say that the last month, so in June, I had Braxton Hicks every day, all day. I basically thought I was in labor. As each week went by, they did get a lot stronger. When it got down to the last couple weeks of my pregnancy, I was you know, kind of getting desperate because they were getting closer together, sometimes stronger, but they were always they were never consistent. So that's what kind of really frustrated me, was because I never really knew when labor was going to happen. With my first, I never actually went into natural labor, so I didn't know what it felt like. I never had Braxton Hicks, so I didn't really know what to look for. So with the second time, I was basically clueless, and it was like having a first child. Weekend before my labor started, I remember I was so desperate because I was already coming up on 40 weeks, and I just really wanted to get her out. So she was born on a Monday, so that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, me, my husband, my family, we were out all weekend. So that Friday night, me and my husband went on a walk for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I didn't really get any contractions at all, which was kind of weird, because usually when I start walking a lot, I always was getting contractions. So I didn't get any contractions at all that whole entire time that we were walking. So Saturday came around, and I told my husband, like, I don't want to be in the house because I've been home all this time, maternity leave, let's get out. So we ended up going to a lake with some other family and friends, and I didn't do much activity there. Honestly, I just sat down on my butt the whole time. So that, I don't know if that helped or not. But then Sunday, I woke up in the morning and I was having a lot of contractions, and these ones were feeling a lot stronger, and they didn't really feel like Braxton Hicks. So if you've never had a Braxton Hicks contraction, it kind of just feels like a tightening in your abdomen area, and they're not really that painful, they're just more uncomfortable. But as my pregnancy progressed, they did become more painful. So this Sunday, I told my husband, like, I think you know, I'm actually having labor, I called my doula and I called my midwives to let them know. They told me that because I was actually able to talk to them on the phone and they weren't that painful, meaning I wasn't having to be like, hold on, I have to go through this contraction, that I'm probably not in active labor. They told me I could come in and they could check me, but if I was dilated, you know, enough that they would keep me. They basically just wanted me to try to progress my labor at home in order to, you know, so that I wouldn't get in the hospital and be in there for a longer time and have more interventions, because you know when you're in the hospital you're kind of on a clock. So here we are Sunday, and I told my husband, like, okay, well the doctor said not to come in unless I'm really think I'm in labor, like pain, like I'm having pain and I can't talk through my contractions. So he was like, okay, let's go walk, let's try to go get things moving and see what can happen. So that Sunday we walked all day. So we probably walked for about 4 hours. At the lake that we went, or sorry, at the beach that we went to, and seriously walking, I had to stop. Like a couple times I really had to stop just because they were hurting so bad, and I wasn't like like breathing heavily, but I mean these contractions were pretty painful. So I remember after 4 hours of walking, we went home and I was like super tired, and I just, you know, every day I was kind of like, is this the day? Is this gonna happen? It's gonna happen tonight. And I, you know, was telling my husband, don't do this, like be ready. But this night I was just like, forget it, like nothing's gonna happen. It hasn't happened at all. Like she's never gonna come and whatnot. And backtracking a little bit, I lost my mucus plug about a week before that. So I lost a big chunk of it, and then I was losing it kind of every day in little chunks. So I was kind of just like frustrated, because I thought when your mucus plug, when you lose it, that you're kind of in labor the next day or so, and that didn't happen. It happened about 4 days after. But yeah, so I went home that night just like, nothing's gonna happen, like let's just go to sleep. Little did I know that at about 5:20 in the morning I woke up and I thought that my water broke actually. I started kind of feeling like TMI, like a weird dripping sensation coming out, and it wasn't like the normal pregnancy discharge that you get. I mean, it felt a lot, you know, like it didn't feel right. And it happened 2 times while I was sleeping, and then I was just like, you know, I was just like too lazy to get up. But then I woke up and I was having like a weird contraction. It didn't feel like the Braxton Hicks contraction. Wasn't really sure what was happening, and I kind of just tried to breathe throughout and get through it, because I wasn't sure if it was active labor or if it was just a contraction, because they were telling me, you know, you'll know when it is a real contraction. So fast forward about a couple hours, I actually, you know, they started getting stronger. I told my husband, like, you know, I think this is it, because like they're hurting. They're not like a Braxton Hicks, they're in my back. Like I feel off, like I don't know, I had a feeling. So I ended up calling my doula, letting her know what was happening, and I called the midwives. The midwives told me that they wanted me to come in and get checked out, just because of if my water did break, then they wanted to know, they wanted to be sure. So I told my husband, we got all of our things ready, we got our son over to my brother-in-law's house, and we headed to the hospital. In the hospital, when I went into the hospital, they told me that I was only out of 4. So that kind of frustrated me a little bit, because I thought I was actually further along because of how, you know, strong my Braxton Hicks or the contractions that I was having were feeling. I actually thought I was like, or I was hoping I was like at a 6 or 7 by the time I got into the hospital, which wasn't true. So I was out of 4, and I remember they were checking, they were trying to check my dilation to see what happened. And in the moment of that happening, I laid back on my back, and my stomach and the baby started like rolling around inside my stomach, and it just was so painful because it just hurt my back so bad. They actually told me, the nurses told me, that they think that the umbilical cord got stuck around my daughter's neck inside, and that she wasn't breathing for about 3 minutes, and she had a decel in her heart rate or something like that. So that's why they admitted me into the hospital when I was about at a 4. So I'm at a 4. I had to wait for a long time to even see if they would let me get a room to labor in. I mean, honestly, time flies by when you're in the hospital, but eventually they got me into a room, and then things kind of started moving fast but slow. So when we got into the room, they put me on a big ball, and they wanted me to try to get my hips open and get the baby to move down, because even though I was dilating in my, I think it was like 90-80% a face, and I was 4 centimeters, she was still pretty high. So they wanted me to, you know, sit on the birthing ball and get my hips open and let the baby come down. So I did that, and that was super uncomfortable. I only did it for a little bit. And backtracking, when I was in the triage room, I was having these really strong contractions, and they were all in my back. And I remember my doula and my husband had to like push on my hips like together like this just to try to help. I remember I was like against, I was backwards on the bed, leaning on it, trying to have my legs open so that the baby would move down. And it was just the most painful thing ever. I had to like moan through these contractions, and I don't ever feeling like that much pain when I was actually in active labor. I mean, I felt a lot of pain in active labor, but it was just a weird type of feeling. Yeah, so back to the story. So anyways, we're in the room, we're trying all these positions to try to get the baby to move down. They had me on the birthing ball, they had me on the toilet, they had me in a rocking chair, kind of like this, trying to rock and get the baby to move down. Eventually, I started feeling a lot of pressure in my pelvis, and I thought it was the baby coming, because I remember with my first son, after the epidurals were wearing off, I felt the same type of pressure, and I was at 8 centimeters by this time. So I thought that I was actually like at 8 centimeters, and I remember calling the nurse, telling my doula like, I want to get checked, like I think I'm at 8 centimeters. So they checked me, and I was only at 6, and I felt like, I don't know, just the pain that I was having, I just was really frustrating me, because I thought that I was farther along than I actually was. So they checked me, and I was only at a 6, and I remember they were like, yay, congratulations, like you dilated 2 more centimeters, and I just gave them a stare like that's how I felt. I gave them, and they were just like, what's wrong? You're not happy about that? And I was like, no. Like, that's all I could say. I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, all this pain, all this time, and I'm only at a 6. Yeah, I wasn't really happy. So they told me to get into the tub, because they could see that the positions that I was doing, because I also was standing up alongside the bed, and my husband was pushing down on my back, and my doula was pushing against my hips, that it wasn't working. Like, I mean, the pain level from when I was at my house to when I actually got to the hospital, it jumped tremendously. And even though it was like, it seemed fast to me, it was kind of a drawn out process. So eventually my labor and delivery nurse, she was super sweet, super nice, and I just love her so much. She recommended that I get into the tub, because they knew that I wanted to have a natural labor, and they knew that I wanted to stay away from the epidural. So they told me getting in the tub will probably relax me. So I was like, yeah, let's get in the tub. I've been waiting for this. So I got into the tub around 3-4 o'clock. Honestly, I don't really know. Time flew by so fast, and nobody was really watching the time. So I'm sorry I don't know timestamps, but it was about 3 o'clock, I could say, 3 or 4. So I finally got into the tub, and I felt really relaxed. Okay, we had the warm water running, and I was just sitting there and relaxing. Now the pain definitely did get stronger, and the main cause of this is because my water did not break. So when they checked me in the hospital, my water didn't break. I had a bulging sack of water is what they called it. So that leaking, I guess, was just probably some of the mucus plug that was coming out, but it was not my water. So I had a lot of back labor. Like, the whole entire labor that I had was back labor, and I'm gonna tell you how long it was at the end, so you gotta stay tuned. But I had a lot of back labor the whole entire time, which is so hard, and my nurse just said that I was pretty strong being able to last that long with that much pain in my back. So getting in the tub really did help. I remember the contractions started to feel a lot stronger, and I think it's just because I was relaxed. And I know that for your labor to progress, you have to be calm in order to, you know, release tension and let the baby move down, which I was doing really good at. My doula, she was there helping me breathe and doing all those techniques, but getting in the tub relaxed me so much that I literally could feel like the contractions were not the same feeling as they were before. I just remember having these weird contractions where it wasn't like a wave, like a contraction kind of, you know, it starts out not so painful, then it's like the peak of the contraction and it's like hurting, and then it comes down. So while I was in the tub, I would have like a big long contraction, like one would be really painful and would go up and then down, and then it would just go right back up and down, but the second one wasn't as painful. So I just remember being in the tub and being like, okay, this one was really painful, the next one is gonna be not so painful, and kind of going like that to try to get me through. I also remember I had water running in the tub. I wanted the water to keep running in the tub so that I could like imagine I was at a waterfall. I was just trying to think of everything that I could do to try to focus my mind on the contraction and making it through each contraction, rather than thinking that this is painful, because it really was. So we were in the tub for a long time, I could say about an hour, when my water broke. So trying on the positions, floating on my back, I actually got to a point where I started getting really shaky, and I think this is when transition happens, because I guess that's when the nausea and the shaking comes in. My doula gave me some peppermint, and I was like breathing it, and my hand was like getting really shaky. And then I just remember at a point when it got really bad, my husband stepped away, I think to go or get some water or something, and it's just my water broke, and it was the weirdest. I mean, I couldn't really feel what most people I think feel, like it running down. I just remember like feeling a pop inside and then seeing like a gush of water in the tub. It was kind of weird, but my water did break, and I was really happy about that, because I think that's why my labor not really progressed like fast. Like I wasn't somebody that had a 2 to 3 hour labor. It went pretty long and drawn out, but it's just kind of like I went from not so painful to really painful, really fast. I don't know how to explain it. Like it was really, water broke, things just, I felt like was kicked up a notch. Like I started getting, you know, the contractions started hurting even more, and I started making this grunting noise like, oh, like that, and it was like really embarrassing, but it was like the only thing that I could do on top of like breathe, like remember you're breathing, and I'm just like, oh, like it was rough. So after my water broke, you know, we called the nurses in, and my husband ended up coming back into the bathroom, and they were like, I could hear them getting stuff ready, and I remember I was just like so exhausted by this time. I remember telling my husband like, I'm so tired, like I'm so tired. Literally they were telling me at like 6 centimeters to like sleep, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be able to sleep through this. But I think I actually kind of did, because the contractions were so painful that in between I would be like, and I think that was my nap. But after my water broke and things started moving really quickly, the pain felt really different, and I had to make a different grunting noise to actually make it through the contraction. So I heard them scrambling, like I said, getting stuff ready, and then I remember my nurse saying, okay, like you're gonna have to get out of the tub and come over to the bed. And I told her like, get out until the bed is ready, like tell me when the bed is ready and then I'll come, because like this is the only spot that I feel good in. And I don't know what it was, but I was just really scared to be walking or standing while I was having a contraction, the whole labor. Even moving from triage to my room, I remember asking them like, where's my room, like how far do I have to walk, because I don't want to be walking in between a contraction, because I just felt like it was more painful that way. So I remember her telling me like, okay, well, we're gonna get the bed ready, but plant the seed, you have to leave, you know, you have to get out of the shower, the bathroom, because you can labor as long as you want to, but you cannot deliver the baby in the tub. So I was like, okay, fine. So as soon as like my contraction, the big one went and the little one went, I was like, okay. After like I had one of those weird contractions, I knew it would have a break, because I knew eventually I got out of the tub. And I remember as soon as I got out of the tub, I had another contraction, and this one I think was probably when I hit 8 to 9 centimeters, because this one felt undescribable, I can say. The very first contraction out of the tub. And I remember I had to, I don't even know if I held onto the door or my husband, but it just hurt so bad, and I remember going like that. And then the nurses were like, oh yay, like all excited, and I'm like what's going on here? So eventually I was like, okay, they're like, okay, you need to get to the bed, like we're gonna check you, see how far you are. So I remember like almost running to the bed, because no, I wasn't running, but I remember walking fast to get to the bed, because I did not want to be standing throughout another contraction. But little did I know, before I could even get on the bed, I had another contraction, and my husband was there, and I had to hold on to something. And I remember just like grabbing him, and this one put me on my tippy toes. Like it hurt so bad. And then I made another grunting noise, which you probably don't want to hear, But I made another one, and I remember the midwives and everybody was like, yes, like that's what we want to hear, like that's how you know when it's almost time to push. Because I kept asking them, how do you know when it's gonna be time to push if you're not checking me? And they said that's the sound. Each contraction, they told me like, do you want to get on the bed, like we're gonna check you? And I was like, no, like I don't want to be on the bed at all, because like this hurts, you know. And I knew that being on my back would hurt even more, because it was like the only way that it would be comfortable is if I was, I don't know, laying down in the water or sitting up. So I remember I had about 4 or 5 more contractions standing up like that. Each contraction that I had standing up was a bigger grunt, and like I don't know, I just felt like the lion was being unleashed inside of me. Like it was something so uncontrollable and so amazing to me looking back at those contractions that I was having, that it was kind of so cool in a way, because it was like I had no control over my body, and my body was working not against me, because I was working with it, but it was doing what it needed to do to get my baby girl here. And I just remember those contractions, and honestly those contractions that I had, even though they were the most, not necessarily painful ones, yeah, they were the most painful ones, those contractions are the ones that I remember the most and that are the most dearest to me, because I knew when I was having those that she was almost coming. And just thinking about it makes me get so emotional, because I don't know how to explain it. It was just a weird feeling, and I felt a strong connection with me and my husband in that moment, because I was basically squeezing the life out of him. But I just knew that she was coming and that we were getting closer, and that she wouldn't be inside me much longer. And even though they were so painful and I was grunting and making weird noises, I knew that she was coming. And then they wanted me eventually to get on the bed so that they can check me to see if it was time to push, because like I said, each contraction I was making, each grunt was getting louder and more like, "Ah!" And they're like, yes, like that's the sound that we need to hear, like yes, like they were super excited. That's all I could remember. And I'm like and the funniest thing was, while I was standing right before I got on the bed, the nurse that I had, she was like, you're like a goddess right now, like you're like Beyonce, like you're rocking this. And I was just like, tell me when she's out that I'm like Beyonce, because right now I feel like death. Okay, so eventually I got on the bed and they checked me, and they're like, they said something, all this medical, you're like at -1 station, blah 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 blah. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, don't give me these terms. Is it time to push? You're like, it's time, you can push. And I was like, yes. I just kind of like, my body, my mind, everything just kind of went into like, okay, let's do this. Like, let's get her out. I'm tired of this pain. I want to see her already. So remember, they wanted me to get on the edge of the bed, and they put like a squat rack towards the end of the bed, and they wanted me to squat and hold this bar. And I remember they were like, squat, and I told my husband, like, all those squats I did in the gym, they better pay off right now. But when I got on the bar, I was like, so how am I supposed to do this? And they wanted me to stay in a squat position and then lay back throughout when I wasn't having a contraction. I was like, no, that's too much work. Like, I'm not trying to get up and down. Like, I want to be in one spot, not on my back. That's gonna help me push her out. I knew, because of research that I did, that being in an upright position, even standing or squatting, actually is the best way to deliver your baby, because you're allowing gravity to pull her down, and it actually helps with tearing. So I did not want to be on my back at all. Like, that was like not an option. I seriously would have probably had her standing, because that, I mean, my husband, I was able to squeeze him, so that kind of helped. But I just didn't really feel stable, and I was kind of nervous about dropping her on the floor. And after they got me on the bed, I was not trying to get back off. So I ended up turning around reverse in the bed. So my elbows, I was leaning over the back of the bed. So if the bed is like this in the hospital, and this is the part that reclines, I was on this part, and my head was kind of like hanging out, and then my hips and everything was this way, kind of like if you were delivering a baby upright, but I was just like this, and I was in a squat position so that she can move down. And I don't know why, but that was just the one way that I thought would work. And it did work. I was able to, there was like handlebars on the edge of the other side of the bed. My husband told me like grab those, and I just held on to the back of the bed. I remember like squatted down, and just like every time I pushed, honestly, I didn't even feel like I pushed a lot. I don't know, because I felt like, honestly, like I said, when I was having those strong contractions, I just felt like my body was doing everything and I was in control of it. I feel like I didn't really push until the last 5 pushes, because I pushed a total of 10 times. So there was 3 sets, so you push 3 times in each set, and I didn't really know. Nobody told me. I remember the nurse coming up and going, actually she was like a nurse midwife, like somebody practicing to be a midwife, and they're like, I just want to let you know this is your first time pushing, so it might take an hour to 2 hours. And I just like tuned that out. I was like, hell no, this ain't not taking 2 to 3 hours or 1 to 2 hours. This is not gonna be 1 to 2 hours. Like, I'm going to get her out as soon as I can. I don't know how long it took. Again, like, nobody was taking timestamps, but I know that it was 3 sets, so I had 3 big contractions and I pushed 3 times in each set. So she was there within 9 contractions. Now I have to say that was honestly another one of my favorite parts, because like I said, my body, it was just so amazing to feel my body and what it was capable of and what it's supposed to do and what God made me to do as a woman. And I was so happy and blessed that I was able to experience this, because with my first, I wasn't given the opportunity. And even though how weird it sounds to say, like, I wanted to have a natural, unmedicated labor and delivery and wanted to feel the pain, I wanted to feel the pain, and I wanted to feel the wrath of a woman and what we really possess and how strong we really are. And I have to say that having this natural unmedicated birth, it really taught a lot about myself and how strong I am mentally, not just even physically, but mentally, and how I was able to not really fight through the contractions, but make it through the contractions, and just know that each contraction was bringing me closer to my baby. And I'm actually going to make another video about how to have a natural labor and delivery, because I feel like a lot of the things that I did can really help you if you're watching this, because I'm guessing you're wanting this same experience. But I just have to say that us women, we're freaking strong and we're badass, and I wish and I hope that other women will want to feel what we're capable of. Even though it's so hard, just know that you can do it, that your body was made to do this and it can do it. But I have back onto the story. I pushed a total of 9 times and she came out. The best part was I was able to catch her. I remember they kept telling me, like, touch her, you can feel her head, like I can see her head, feel it, she has hair, and it just motivated me to get her out. And every time I pushed a little bit harder than the last time, and she was out and I was able to catch her. I brought her out and I didn't even look at her. I just started crying because I was just so, like, I was like, I did it, you know, I did it. Like, I don't know, it was just, thank God I did this after 2 weeks, not my first week, because I'd probably be bawling, which is why I waited, because I was crying for like 4 days after, just because of how proud I was of how I was able to do it. But the best part was being able to actually be the first person to really touch her, hold her, take her out of myself, and see her and put her on my chest was just the best feeling in the world, compared to, you know, being induced, having a C-section, having my husband hold him first, like being so drugged up that you're afraid to hold your baby because you're afraid you don't have enough strength to hold your baby after labor, to being able to hold him, pull him right out of you and onto your chest. It's just an amazing feeling, and I know you will not know the feeling until you actually experience it yourself, but it was the best feeling ever. And I know my husband was really proud of me, and he was there, and honestly I don't know what his face looked like when I was pushing and took her out. My doula said he was very emotional as well, but I just know that it was the best experience of my life, and I would totally do it again. And after the baby, like the next day, I was like, man, I wish I could go back to that moment, because it was just changed me as a woman, and just as, you know, it just opened up a lot of things and showed me what I'm really capable of, what I really am capable of, and how strong I really am. And I remember the happiest thing was also my nurse said, and this is what we call a successful VBAC. And I was happy about that too, because with VBACs, you never really know what can happen. You can, you know, have issues with your C-section scar and have to have an emergency C-section, and I was just so blessed that I was able to do this. I'm guessing that you're wondering how long the labor took, and it took about 14 hours, I can say, from the very first contraction that I felt in the morning to the time that she was born. So about 14 hours. I don't know how long the active like labor was, but the first time that I felt a contraction thinking it could be labor until when she was born was 14 hours. So I made it 14 hours unmedicated vaginal VBAC, and I'm happy and I'm proud to say that I did that. And the next kids that I have, yes, I want more, will be the same, and I now know that I can do it, and I'm gonna do it. So I hope that by watching this video and me sharing my birth story and how I had a natural unmedicated VBAC inspires you to try the same and doesn't scare you in any way, because just know every labor and delivery is different. Yours may be faster, yours you might not have back labor. Like, every labor and delivery is different, and I just want to inspire you and motivate you to try it as well. And I hope that if you're pregnant and you're watching this, that you have a smooth, safe labor and delivery with a healthy baby at the end of it, and I just hope that you can have the labor and delivery that you want as well. Thank you guys for watching, and that was my birth story with my second baby, and I will probably show you guys here. I'll show you her in a second because she's over here in the swing. You probably can hear the music running in the background, and I will let you guys see what she looks like and you guys can meet her. But I'm just really excited to say I did it. The LIONESS, which is also one of my other favorite parts, I have to tell you, my husband, I remember the nurse was like, you know, this is the time, and the midwives were like, this is the time you need to be whispering sweet things in her ear when I was, you know, like going through those hard contractions. And he's like, show me the LIONESS, show me the LIONESS, show me who you are. And I was just like, rah, rah. And I showed him who the LIONESS is. Ha. That is my birth story. I'm gonna show you Miss Little Imani, and then I will be out of here. So if you guys did like this video, please don't forget to like the video so that I know that you're liking the content that I'm putting out. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you never miss a video like this again. And again, if you came to my channel because of the fitness, just know a couple more weeks and I will be back to it. Probably, most likely, will be home workouts and things like that, but we're gonna be getting back to it soon. So I'm gonna show you Miss Imani, and then that'll be it. So here she is, my little Imani. She weighed 7 pounds 1 ounce and was 19 inches long. She was born July 2nd, 2018, and here she is. Hello. She's sleeping right now. She's so sweet, and I love her. She definitely has turned me into a new woman. She taught me a lot of things that I didn't know I was capable of. And I love her today. She's waking up. Say hi. Say hi. It's like, Mom, leave me alone. Oh, here she is. Ooh, ooh. Oh. Alright, so that was everything. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.